Monday, April 27th, Raymore City Council meeting. Call roll to confirm a quorum.
Councilmember Abdelgawad.
Here.
Councilmember Barber.
Present.
Councilmember Burke.
Present.
Councilmember Holman.
Present.
Councilmember Hubach.
Present.
Councilmember Kellogg.
Present.
Councilmember Moorhead.
Present.
Councilmember Stevens absent. Mayor Kirkhoff.
Present. We do have a quorum. Would everybody please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? And we have a couple of presentations this evening. First one is Local Government Week. Whereas the local government is the backbone of our democracy and the bedrock of the political system, a testimony to liberty, freedom, and the right to elected self-government. And whereas the citizens of Missouri rely upon local government to deliver essential community services such as clean water, police protection, and strong infrastructure. And whereas the continued success of our local government in meeting the needs of our citizens is a key element in maintaining the overall quality of life in Missouri. And whereas the rich tapestry of local governments in Missouri is represented by thousands of hardworking citizens officials, many of whom serve without compensation. Whereas through the education and awareness, the importance of local governments can be communicated to citizens, state legislatures, and the news media. And whereas recognition of local government's accomplishments will give Raymore residents a better understanding of how essential services are provided. Now therefore, I, Peter Kirkhoff, Mayor of the City of Raymore, do hereby proclaim the week of May 4th through May 8th, 2015 as Local Government Week. And the second proclamation, whereas the office of municipal clerk, a time-honored and vital part of local government, exists throughout the world, and whereas the office of municipal clerk is the oldest among public servants, and whereas the office of municipal clerk provides professional link between the citizens, local government bodies, and agencies of government at other levels, and whereas municipal clerks have pledged to be ever mindful of their neutrality and impartiality, rendering equal service to all, and whereas municipal clerk serves as the information center on the functions of local government and community, and whereas municipal clerks continually strive to improve the administration of affairs of the Office of Municipal Clerk through participation in educational programs, seminars, workshops, and the annual meetings of the regional, state, and international professional organizations. Now therefore, I, Peter Kirkhoff, Mayor of the City of Raymore, do hereby proclaim the week of May 3rd through 9th, 2015 as Municipal Clerks Week. All right, now we'll move on to staff reports.
Thank you, sir. I'll call on Mr. Grass to make the report for Public Works.
Thank you, Mr. Fairborn. Mr. Mayor, Council, I'd like to give you a verbal, kind of an update on a few projects. The tower stabilization work is complete, with the exception of some minor restoration that we're going to be working on here shortly. The sidewalk gap project, that's the project where we are installing sidewalk in neighborhoods on the undeveloped lots, is approximately 40% complete. And operations has completed the first round of weed control as part of our pilot program along 58 Highway. With that, I am available for questions.
Any questions of staff?
Amuse me on the paint striper. It's here, right?
The paint striper is here, and we have placed an order for several 55-gallon barrels of paint and are waiting delivery of that.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions of staff? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Krass. I would call on the city clerk, Ms. Warner.
Thank you, sir. Mayor and council, each year the city of Raymore adopts an ordinance establishing certain procedures to disclose potential conflicts of interest with the Missouri Ethics Commission for certain officials and candidates for elected offices. This staff report verifies that the proper reports for the city manager and chief purchasing specialist have been filed as required by the Missouri Ethics Commission by the May 1st deadline. All reports are on file and available for inspection in the city clerk's office. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Warner. I would call... it's time for me. Just want to, as we always do, discuss just very briefly the upcoming calendar for the council. And next week's work session is one of the, we're going to be discussing two primary items at it. We're going to be talking about giving a debt, what we're going to call a debt service 101. Several different council members have approached us at different times about how the elements of that work, and with the no tax increase bond issue looming on the horizon, we thought it'd be a really good idea to brief the council up on exactly how debt service works. So we've got a very dynamic tag team presentation that's going to be done by myself, Mr. Goffey, Ms. Watson, to give you that overview. Part two is going to be the introduction of the initial staff-generated list of potential projects to be covered with that no tax increase bond issue for the council to begin their review, ask any questions of staff that you might have, any discussion points that you want, anything that you would like to see added or taken away from that list at the early stage, and then staff's going to have some recommendations for the calendar going forward with that for input. We do have some time. That concludes staff reports, sir, and staff would entertain. There he is. He was hiding in the corner on me. I would call on Mr. Mustine for Parks and Rec.
I'll wait next time. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, quick update on Parks and Rec stuff. The park staff have been working pretty hard this past week to catch up on mowing with all the rain and the delays we've had. So you might see that the grass has been a little taller than we like to have it, but today was a pretty good catch-up day. We got a lot done today. We sprayed for dandelions on the frontage road around Recreation Park, so we hope to get that caught up and looking good again. We painted the foul poles on the baseball fields, installed those again, so they look really good. From a recreation standpoint, youth baseball and softball practices are going. Competitive ball started last Thursday night. Recreation ball starts May 18th. Soccer and volleyball continue to go. The volleyball tournament is this weekend, and soccer has another few weeks left as we work through rain, as you guys have, if you have players, and you all have seen what the last few weekends have been for us. Let's see, we have our first baseball tournament this weekend, so staff is preparing for that, scheduling the umpires and getting those things, or the things ready for the event. This is a contracted tournament, not hosted by our department, but a rental event. And the Summer Quest program is still scheduled. We're still conducting interviews and taking registrations, and camp does start May 26th. Our next special event coming up is the movie night in the park on May 8th at Memorial Park, and that is a new release. We do new release in the spring and a classic movie in the fall, and this is Big Hero 6 that came up just recently, so we expect a large crowd if the weather's nice. Questions?
Questions of staff? Thank you.
Thank you.
Again, sir, that does now conclude staff reports. If you have any questions at all of a general nature for staff.
Okay. No questions of staff. We do have some economic development events coming up. On the 30th, Anytime Fitness will be having a ribbon cutting for their new owners at 913 West Foxwood at 11:30. On May 1st, Hawk Family Dentistry at 425 West Pine Street will have their ribbon cutting. And on the 8th, Balance Point Heating and Cooling is moved to a new location at 423 West Pine Street. 1 o'clock, they'll have their grand opening. And then on the 7th, State Farm Keller Williams be holding their groundbreaking at 2 o'clock at 1006 West Foxwood Drive. Those are the economic development events coming up. Moving on, I'll entertain a motion to dispose of the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the consent agenda to include item A, City Council minutes for the regular session of April 13, and B, City Council minutes for the special section on April 13.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries unanimously.
Point of order, sir.
I'm sorry?
I did not vote in favor.
Okay,
I'm abstaining as I was not here that evening.
okay, sorry. Motion carries 6-1. Thank you. Move on to unfinished business. We have the second reading of Bill 3062 by title only, please.
The second reading of Bill 3062 by title only. An ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri approving and authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with Vance Brothers, Inc. for the fiscal year 2015 microsurfacing project in the amount of $210,620.48 and authorizing the city manager to approve change orders within established budget constraints.
I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve Bill 3062 for the 2015 microsurfacing project.
There's been a motion and a second to approve Bill 3062. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. May we have a reading of Bill 3063 by title only, please?
The second reading of Bill 3063 by title only. An ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri approving an amendment to the fiscal year 2015 operating budget.
I'll entertain a motion to dispose of Bill 3063.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve Bill 3063 for budget amendment for the communications manager.
I second.
There's been a motion and a second to approve Bill 3063. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. That takes care of old business. We'll move on to new business. Beginning with the meeting of the Raymore Municipal Assistant Corporation. So
We first need to adjourn the open session of the council,
okay.
and then a new roll call for the board of directors seated at the dais.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the main meeting.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adjourn the main meeting to conduct business regarding the Raymore Municipal Assistance Corporation.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second to adjourn the main meeting. All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. And we'll call to order the Raymore Municipal Assistant Corporation meeting
Roll call,
with
sir.
a roll call.
Director Abdelgawad,
Here.
Director Barber, Director Burke,
Present.
Director Holman,
Present.
Director Hubach,
Yes.
Director Kellogg,
Present.
Director Moorhead,
Present.
Director Stevens absent, Kirkhoff.
Present. Thank you.
Sir, staff would ask for approval of the minutes of the meeting of April 28, 2014.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second to approve the minutes of, is there any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, sir. Election of officers. The current officers for RAMAC and traditionally, or by traditionally held positions, the president is normally the mayor. The vice president is normally the mayor pro tem. Last year, that was Councilmember Westcoat. The secretary last year, Councilmember Abdelgawad volunteered to be the secretary. The treasurer for the group is normally the finance director for the city. Staff would recommend a slate of officers to reflect that, and if Ms. Abdelgawad would be willing, President Mayor Kirkhoff, Vice President Councilmember Moorhead, Secretary Councilmember Abdelgawad, Treasurer Finance Director Cindy Watson.
Mr. Mayor, I would move that we select President as Mayor, Mr. P. Kirkhoff, Vice President, Mr. Derek Moorhead, Secretary, Mrs. Sonia Abdelgawad, and Treasurer, Mrs. Cindy Watson, for the Ray Mac Board of Directors.
Okay,
I'll second the motion.
okay. There's been a motion and a second. Are there any further nominations? Okay. All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
There are no other matters for the Board of Directors, sir. So we would just, staff would request adjournment of this meeting and, or dismissal of this, adjournment of this meeting, and then reopening the
Okay.
regular council meeting.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting of the RAMAC.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adjourn the meeting for RAMAC.
I second.
There's been a motion and a second to adjourn the meeting of RAMAC. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. We are adjourned. And
Mr. Mayor, at this time, I'd move to reconvene the regular council session for April 27th.
There's been a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second to reconvene the main meeting. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. All righty. Move on to next item. Revocation of occupational license and liquor license.
Thank you, sir. I'll call on the city clerk.
Thank you. The City of Raymore has been notified by the Missouri Department of Revenue that the retail sales tax license of the Pit Grill and Bar located at 1242/46 West Foxwood Drive has been revoked for delinquent payment of its state taxes. A letter was sent to the business owner of the Pit Grill and Bar as official notice that the establishment's occupational and liquor licenses have been suspended pending a public hearing on this date before the City Council. It is recommended that the council conduct a public hearing regarding the suspension or revocation of the occupational and liquor license of the Pit Grill and Bar and decide on appropriate course of action. A representative of the business is in attendance to provide any answers that council may have, to questions that council may have.
Thank you. This calls for a public hearing. I'll open the public hearing and ask for anybody in the public that would make a statement, come forward, identify yourself to your record, keep your comments to under 5 minutes. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Jeanette Singleton. I am the mother of the owner of record, but I have unofficially on paper taken over the restaurant at this point. A year ago, we made arrangements with the state on past due taxes. We were paying those taxes every month, along with our regular monthly taxes that were due. And we continue making our regular monthly payments as of now. They're still done. The next thing I know, we're getting a letter stating that we haven't paid our taxes, and we get the letter from the city. That's how I knew. I called the state. Finally got hold of a gentleman, told him I didn't understand what was going on. We've been making payments like we're supposed to. I make my regular payments on time. And he said they did not. There were, back in 2013, which is our worst year ever, there were 2 checks that didn't clear. He told me that the department that made the arrangement with me for monthly payments for catch-up didn't have the authorization to do that on those 2 checks, which ironically would have been the next checks paid off on that monthly thing. So I guess they rescinded everything, didn't never gave me notice, nothing. They just did it. So he told me in order for everything to be even again and for me to get back on the way I was, I would have to pay those two amounts, which came to basically $8,600. So my husband took money out of his 401k. We had to wait for that to come in. Deposited it, had to wait for the bank to clear that. I finally got authorization on Friday that it was cleared. In the meantime, I was in the process traveling back in town. I work out of town during the week. And so I mailed off overnight delivery certified funds today to the state of Missouri. So I am asking that you guys give me a little more time to verify with them that they got this and that everything is back on even keel again.
Thank you. Is it appropriate to ask what, or do we want to have others? I'm sorry, I'm going to, point of order, Mr. Chair. Is it okay for us as council members to question this person right now, or should we wait for others? Okay. How long ago did you take possession of the business? I've got a couple questions just by.
A couple of years ago, we took it over, was just running it from her, because she had to go get a job that actually paid her money. The restaurant was so new, she wasn't making money. She unexpectedly had our second grandbaby. So she was going to close the restaurant. I said, don't do that, just let mom and dad take it over, run it, because my son started it with her, although he doesn't have any money involved. And I said, your brother loves that place. So we took it over. Last year, we decided that she's officially turning it over to us.
Okay. I understand your difficulties you're having with the state. Very sympathetic. It's not the first time I've heard something like this. And I appreciate what you're going through, and I thank you for showing up and pleading your case. Very admirable. In the past, and this may be out of time, you've asked for time, and I can tell you right now that I am lenient towards giving you more time, because I know that when it's dealing with the state, that you are at the mercy of the state. In the past, we have given some extra days than that, and I will probably make that motion tonight, and hopefully I get support from my colleagues to second and carry through with that. I just ask for this council member that all information that our city clerk needs, that it be made available to her, to our staff. It's been my experience in the past that this is a formality that our city clerk has to do based on the law. And from what you're telling me, I believe you're earnest and honest. The situation is that you owe basically $8,600 until the state sends our clerk a verification, confirmation that it's done. It stands that it is. So, you know, I'll just go ahead and leave it at that. I can tell you're kind of anxious about this, and I appreciate everything you're going through. But I'll let the other council members, there's some other questions. I see hands going up too, but like I say, I'll reiterate, thank you for being honest and coming before us and letting us know.
Okay. Other questions? Yes.
Thank you, sir. A couple of points of clarification. This particular location has not been before the council with a revocation notice before. They have been on the list that's coming to you next time, but they have never had to be granted any days for extension. Also, staff has been able to, the extent possible, to verify the payment schedule that you just now heard. Staff would report that for all of 2015, the business is current, And with the exception of this single period in 2014, the business is current, and the business is current for the entirety of 2013. That concludes staff.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
I had a couple of questions for the applicant.
okay.
Ms. Singleton, with respect to the $8,600 delinquency, is it your testimony that you have now made a portion or have made all of that payment to the Department of Revenue?
I mailed the entire payment this morning, overnight delivery.
And to the best of your knowledge, if that clears and is paid, will your entity, which I want to ask, was Crystal Goss your daughter or the prior owner?
Yes,
And so you are now representing to the council and the city that you are now the current owner, is that correct? Legally
Yeah.
or not? I mean, I don't know.
not legally, but
Not
yes.
legally yet? Okay.
Yes.
But with this payment, then, would your company be current in all sales taxes, then, to the best of your knowledge?
No, the balance of what would be left on the payment plan would be, I believe, it's either January through April or January through May of 2014 would be all that would be left on the payment plan. So it's
After,
either 4 or 5 months,
after the application of the $8,600?
yes.
And when would you be able to tell the council that you would hope to be able to satisfy that obligation?
What the state told me was, once I paid the $8,600, then they could put me back in touch with the department that I originally had the payment plan with, and that they could set me back up on the payment plan again for those 4 or 5 months.
And when,
Knowing that I still have to continue making my regular monthly sales tax,
And did
which
they
I
ind-
stated I have all along.
very good. And did they indicate then that they would lift their notice of revocation if you made the
Yes.
$8,600, taking
Yes.
away the notice we had been given?
That's what they told me.
Thank you.
And that references the fact that when staff says they are current, it means they will be able to get a no tax due letter. They are making regular payments. Some of them may be according to an arrangement, but they're making regular payments against those.
No further questions? Thank you, thank you. Any other public want to come forward? Seeing nobody want to come forward, I'll close the public comment. I'll move to council.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
I move that we extend the revocation of this liquor license until June 22nd. This will give her, the owner, 60 days, which we have typically been, historically been doing here lately. And that will give her the time she needs to do the paperwork and get everything back. I suspect, based on our, if this instance is like the last instance, those results should come back that, you know, in the next couple of weeks. But I'm comfortable giving a 60-day extension for this, and at the end of that, but we'll revisit this on June 22nd, 2015.
Mr. Mayor, I second.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second to delay.
Just a point of order, just clarification. I think, Mr. Kellogg, you referenced only the liquor license, but I think you also meant the occupational license as well. Is that correct?
No, the only thing that's on the agenda on the dais right now for consideration is the,
Occupational
The-
license, and liquor license.
yes, both then.
And I'm seconding for both.
Okay. Okay, there's been a motion and a second. Please.
Mr. Mayor, first of all, I want to point out that we've established a little bit of a trend here to go to a 60-day extension in light of the state taxing agency and how it takes to communicate with them. I also do wish to point out that we have extended this exact same courtesy to previous businesses in town, and I wish to note that the last 2 businesses successfully were able to resolve the matter in the positive. So I believe that this would be sufficient time to allow the applicant to be able to get this resolved, and if not, be able to come back before us.
Okay. Kevin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I would agree with what Mr. Moorhead just said, and that's why I'm apt and leaning towards doing that, is anything we can do to, you know, I'm not gonna say we, I'm speaking as the whole council, but anything that I can do to help a local business owner stay in business and meet their obligation and responsibility to the state and to the citizens, I'm willing to do that, because I realize that it is not easy to make the wheels turn in Jefferson City. The other thing that I will point out is that there are no other issues other than, you know, a dispute of past due payments from 2 years ago. This isn't property taxes or income taxes or anything like that. In addition, this is just stuff that unfortunately business owners have to go through when dealing with the state. So that's all I got. Thank you.
Any other comments? Okay, there's been a motion and a second to approve a 60-day extension. All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Move on to the next item, delinquent occupational licenses.
Thank you, sir. I'll call on Ms. Warner.
A memo with specific information pertaining to these businesses that are the subject of this public hearing that are delinquent on their occupational license have been distributed to the council before this meeting. The notices of the occupational license renewal were mailed on November 19th of 2014, followed by reminder letters being mailed on January the 15th and February the 10th of 2015. On March 20th, 2015, a letter serving as official notification of the violation was mailed to the business owners by both regular and certified mail, outlining specific sections of the city code that pertain to the occupational licenses. This letter also gave the business owners 10 days from the date of the letter to respond to the city clerk. The public hearing provides an opportunity for the business owners to address the city council and provide defense or evidence as to why the penalty sanction should not be imposed. The following businesses are subject of this public hearing: Adult Care Health Center of KC, Cassie Lillig, McCord Construction, Chad Pinnell, L&M Janitorial and Odd Job Specialist, Lawn and Order, Sparkle Princess Spa Parties, Windside Construction, and Beeswax. Staff recommends that any businesses deemed by the council after the public hearing to be in violation be sent a letter giving them 10 business days to pay the delinquent license fee and penalties, and stating that if compliance does not occur within that time frame, a misdemeanor citation will be issued, and the city attorney may seek action in the circuit court to restrain, correct, or abate continued operation of the business. As of this date, occupational licenses have accrued delinquent penalties in the amount of $15 in addition to the $100 license fee. Home-based occupational licenses have accrued $3.75 in penalties in addition to the $25 license fees. That concludes staff report.
Thank you. This requires a public hearing, so I'll open up the public hearing, asking for anybody of the public that would like to come forward, identify yourself for the record, and keep your comments to under 5 minutes. Seeing nobody come forward, I'll close the public hearing. I'll entertain a motion to dispose of the delinquent occupational licenses.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that the council accept the staff recommendations as identified in the agenda of tonight and as read by the city clerk.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Please.
I have a question, probably for staff. Obviously, it's not the first time this has happened. And my guess would be that some of these businesses no longer exist. Is that a fair assessment? Or do we know that they're still in existence?
For some, it's a little difficult because we have, as Ms. Warner pointed out to me, an unusual number of home-based businesses. The short form of that is if we find out they're doing business without an occupational license, then that takes on a whole new form. We send them this notification, they make no payment. Our assumption is they're no longer in business, and so we're not going to receive a payment. Storefronts are a different story. We can watch those.
Sure. Thank you.
Any other? Okay, there is a motion and a second. All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. And we'll move along to Bill 3065. May we have a reading of Bill 3065 by title only?
The first reading of Bill 3065 by title only. An ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with Hettinger Excavating for the Johnston Drive Water Line Project, City Project Number 15-214-201, in the amount of $259,385, and authorizing the city manager to approve change orders within established budget constraints.
Thank you. Staff report?
Yes, sir. Mr. Krass calls the next portion of the agenda the spring is in the air portion.
Okay.
So you're going to be hearing a little bit from him, and infrastructure is starting, if anybody's asking you questions. I'll call on Mr. Krass.
Thank you, Mr. Fairborn, Mr. Mayor, members of council. This project involves replacement of the water main along Johnson Drive from Silver Lake Circle to Silvertop Lane. If council recall, they recently did a budget amendment to advance this project to coordinate with the Johnson Drive reconstruction project that will be completed later this summer. We do recommend award of the contract to Hettinger Excavating in the amount of $259,385.
Questions of staff? Thank you. There's a, do we have a motion yet?
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we approve Bill 3065 for the Johnston Drive water line.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve Bill 3065. Is there any discussion?
Just a comment, sir. This is, one would look at this and read it and say this is pretty benign, spending a lot of money, paying the bills. If you have any questions on the importance of this, I suggest you drive Kansas City streets in the fall, and you will see water line breaks probably within a couple of miles. They're much larger than us, and their infrastructure is much older, but taking care of this, as I think Mr. Krass would agree, is of the utmost importance so that we don't have to send crews out in freezing cold weather in November and December to stop the leaks and make the temporary measures, which cost us a lot more in the long run.
Any other comments? Okay, there's a motion and a second. All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. May I have the first reading of Bill 3066 by title only?
The first reading of Bill 3066 by title only. An ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with Bright Construction, LLC for the sanitary sewer rehabilitation project, City Project Number 15-208-202, in the amount of $70,623, and authorizing the city manager to approve change orders within established budget constraints.
Thank you. Staff report, and this goes back to Mr. Krass?
It does
for his
indeed, sir.
Springtime.
Springtime, backhoes in the air, those type
Okay.
of things. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, this project is a companion to the recent sewer lining project that you recently awarded a contract for. This project involves a combination of a number of things, a rehabilitation of manholes or grouting of manholes that are leaking, raising some manholes to grade, and several point repairs where either tree lines or some other things have caused a break in the line between the service connection and the main, and where a lot of clean water is entering the sanitary sewer system. This is also one of the rare occasions where we only received one bid for the project. Our purchasing policy does allow that, and we did outline the terms under which we can accept a bid from a single bidder. Bright Construction has done quite a bit of work for the city, and satisfactory work, and we do recommend award of the contract to them.
Questions of staff? Go ahead. Mhm.
I don't know that it's such a small job, but it's such a fiddly little job. I think it's difficult to especially the point repairs. I think it's difficult for the contractors to quantify. Bright is very familiar with the area. They've been doing a lot of work. We do send out 16 to 20 direct notifications to sanitary sewer contractors in the area. We've also recently started an electronic bidding process where it casts a very wide net across the Kansas City metro area, and I think it's just the labor the majority of the work is very labor intensive, and so I think it was just difficult for some of the contractors to quantify and fairly bid.
Commissioner Kellogg?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's a question, not basically for me, but for reiteration and for the public. All other, our normal requirements we require of contracts that still apply, like say our E-Verify, the prevailing wage, all the insurance and everything still is in place that would have been if we had multiple bidders?
Yes, the only difference is the bid evaluation process, the actual evaluation of the bid, whether or not they are a qualified bidder.
Any other questions? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve Bill 3066 for the sanitary sewer rehabilitation.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve Bill 3066. All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. May I have the reading of Bill 3068 by title only, please?
The first reading of Bill 3068 by title only. An ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, authorizing the mayor to enter into a cooperative agreement with Mid-America Regional Council for funding operations of the Operation Greenlight Traffic Control System in the amount of $9,600.
Staff report.
Thanks, sir. I'll call Mr. Krass.
Thank you, Mr. Fairborn. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, recently we had a member of the Operation Greenlight staff do a presentation to council outlining the services that they provide under this maintenance contract, and we are at this point bringing it forward for approval.
Questions of staff? Thank you. Do you have a question?
I had a question for the staff. When we had the meeting, there were several of us that had questions about extending the green light area to out to J Highway. But when I looked at the contract, I couldn't tell that anything had been changed. Do you know whether they took any of our comments into consideration or not?
They have, and what they are in the process of preparing is a report of the way the current corridor operates, recommended improvements to the corridor, and once we receive that, we will be bringing that forward for further discussion with the council at a future work session.
Okay. Any other? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve Bill 3068 for Operation Greenlight.
I second.
There's been a motion and a second to approve Bill 3068. All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. May I have the first reading of Bill 3067 by title only, please?
The first reading of Bill 3067 by title only. An ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with Westland Construction for the Adams Street Water Main Project, City Project Number 15-213-201, in the amount of $119,955, and authorizing the city manager to approve change orders within established budget constraints.
Staff report.
Thank you, sir. I'll call on Mr. Krass.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Fairborn. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, this project involves replacement of the water main along the 500 block of South Adams Street. We do recommend award of the contract to Westland Construction. We have verified the references and found no issues or concerns with the work that they had performed for other public agencies.
Thank you. Is there any questions of staff? I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve Bill 3067 for Adams Street Water Main.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve Bill 3067. If there's no discussion, all in favor? Motion carries unanimously. That takes us up to item H, governing body members and planning and zoning.
Thank you, sir. Section 465.020B4 of the City Code provides that during a meeting in April of each year, the council shall designate whether or not it shall have a member of the council serve on the Planning and Zoning Commission, and the mayor shall designate if she chooses to be a member of the commission, and any such member shall serve for a term of 1 year. Mayor Kirchhoff has indicated that he will choose to be a member of the Planning and Zoning Commission this year. The council is requested to designate whether or not it shall have a member serve on the Planning and Zoning Commission for the upcoming year. Should the council choose, as it has in years past, not to have a member serve, staff would recommend, as in years past, so that the motion is an affirmative one. The council makes an affirmative motion that the mayor be the only member of the mayor and council serving on the committee.
Thank you. Any questions of staff? I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move that I move for a recommendation that the mayor is the only member of the mayor and council to serve for the coming year on the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Second.
I second.
There's a motion and a second on the mayor being the only representative to the P&Z. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. That takes care of new business. Open the floor to public comment. Please identify yourself for the record. Keep your comments to under 5 minutes. Please.
Mr. Mayor, and this probably should have been done in staff report, I apologize. We have a Planning and Zoning Commission meeting next Tuesday, the 5th. And I would like to commend or make available or make aware, the council aware, that it will be a training session in which we will go over the duties of planning commissioners and the appropriate scope of their legal review, along with changes in the code. My partner Jonathan Zur and Mr. Cataret will be making an excellent presentation, and particularly maybe for the new members of the council, I think would be most informative to hear what factors are appropriate, what factors are inappropriate in considering zoning and other land use matters that come before the council, and also the conflict of interest statutes that Ms. Werner was talking about and they're subject to will also be discussed. So I wanted to make note of that to the council, that availability will be here at 7 p.m. next Tuesday.
Very good.
Having sat through that, that is very informative and very entertaining, I might add.
Okay. Seeing nobody want to come forward for public comments, we'll go on to mayor council communication using my wonderful random list of counselors. Councilmember Kellogg, you're first tonight.
I have nothing, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the opportunity, though.
Okay. Councilmember Burke.
I have no comment this evening. Thank you.
Councilmember Hubach.
Nothing tonight.
Councilmember Barber.
Nothing.
Councilmember Moorhead.
I plan on filibustering on the sake of, for Mr. Holman here. First of all, I want to point out, I made a comment off the record with the mic off, but I'll publicly say it. Part of the entertaining presentation that Mr. Zur has is him teasing me for over an hour about urban chickens, so that I endured a great deal of that. But actually, I did also want to say that training course, I know that will be a recorded session, so I would actually encourage citizens to watch that. It's very informative about our planning and zoning process, and encourage our new members of the council to attend for that. Back to the beginning with our proclamations, it is a never-ending appreciation for all our city staff. So the local government and municipal clerk being honored here tonight is something we really kind of do every time we meet up here, because they take such good care of us and help us out so much. I will also pick on Councilmember Holman, and I'm assuming that when the paint striper and paint is present, he will be riding with it for the inaugural spray, which kind of scares me a little bit. And then my final thing, I do wish to point out that the Cass County Health Department is sponsoring a wonderful program called A Healthier Cass on May 28th. It is down in Harrisonville. I do wish to encourage every member of Cass County to look into that. You can contact the Cass County Health Department regarding specifics to learn about programs that they do offer you in this community. And as a person who now works somewhat with them, I'm very amazed and appreciative of all that they do for members of Cass County. You can contact them. There is an RSVP at 380-8440. So I would strongly encourage that. Other than that, I'm sorry for a small filibuster. Thank you.
Councilmember Holman, you're next.
Thank you, sir. I have 3 items. I always like to recognize the students in the audience. I think it's been a while since we've seen any here. I find it amazing that they're here this late in the session. We appreciate it. You didn't have the most exciting agenda tonight, but you're also going to get off early on time because we're getting close to being finished. We appreciate you being here. Second thing is we've been bantering back and forth about planning and zoning. I spent 5.5 years on planning and zoning, and there are 2 gentlemen here, Mr. Willerth and Mr. Catterett, that made me much, much smarter. That was probably the best training I could have had for this position. I can still quote several of Mr. Willerth's speeches to us about, let me think of a good one, subdivision adjacency requirements. I think I can quote some of that verbatim. The point is that it may seem boring, but I listened, and it was very informative and very helpful for everything that I've done up here. So thank you. If you have problems with me, blame my teachers, I guess, is the bottom line. Those 2 are going to take it. And the last thing that I would leave everyone with, and if Lieutenant Abdelgawad would pass on, tell our officers to be extra careful this evening with what's going on in Baltimore. And I would ask that everyone's thoughts and prayers be with the citizens of Baltimore and the police department and law enforcement officers everywhere. That's all I have.
Councilmember Abdelgawad, you're last.
Thank you. Nothing tonight, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. And I will echo Councilmember Moorhead's comments on our city staff and municipal clerk. And that's about it. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Mayor, I move to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor? We're in adjournment. Thank you.